Welcome to Batman, right here at Comicstorian, your home for audio dramas of your favorite comic books, video games, and movies. Today we're going to be doing another Detective Comics storyline, a retelling of the Mr. Freeze story in a new direction for that character of Mr. Freeze. Now, just so you know what's going on, this story takes place before Alfred was killed in Tom King's run, and it's also happening at the exact same time as Year of the Villain, so Lex Luthor is going around giving the villains whatever they've always wanted to help them achieve their goals, to help bring forth a Year of the Villain. That's pretty much all you need to know going into the storyline. I hope you guys enjoy, and if you do, please consider subscribing and smash that like button so you can become frozen like Mr. Freeze. Now, wait, I don't know if you want that. Either way, hit that like button, please, for the YouTube algorithm's sake, and I'll see you guys at the end of the video. As snow falls in the Gotham Pine Barrens, Mr. Freeze holds out his hand, stating that this is a magic blanket of symmetry, a reflection of eternal order, crystallization, my love, of desire, of resurrection. He takes off his helmet and he takes a deep breath, taking in the cool, fresh air without the need of his devices. The suit indicates that his exterior is -2 degrees, and that his internal body core is -2 degrees. He holds out his tongue to taste the falling snow, saying that the time has come, my darling, to feed our souls. The nanotechnology was a success, and now I no longer need to live within a suit of cold. Which means, soon enough, Nora will not have to either. The nanotech that I've been working on for all of these years has finally bonded to my skin, and... But before he could finish, a voice over the intercom tells him that this is Team 1. Subject has been tranquilized. Freeze gets back to work, stating, "Good. Transport with extreme care." Soon after, Teams 2 and 4 confirm that they have their targets, leaving only the final 2 left. The 2 men of Team 3 knock on the door of a woman and they point at her their trank guns. The woman turns to run, but as she does, a second trank dart is fired and she trips, hitting her head against a table. The second man checks the woman's pulse, asking what they're supposed to do now. Freeze said unharmed. And the first man tells him that they just need to get the hell out of here. We'll figure it out later. Meanwhile, over back at the Barrens, Freeze preps several women on the testing tables, all with similar characteristics to Nora. He says that he must test Luthor's gift before giving it to his wife. He must recreate her situation with these women who all share the same qualities as her. Once they can confirm the resurrection has no ill side effects, then Nora can finally return. While Freeze continues his experiments, over in the Batcave, Batman is training his body while listening to calls coming in from the GCPD. Most are just drunkards, but then one catches his attention. The woman on the line says that she was just attacked in her home. 2 men came in and they shot her with a dart. Her head is bleeding, and Alfred finishes his work on the jet and Batman tells him to fire it up. He's headed out. A short while later, over at the GCPD, Bullock flips the switch for the bat signal, but before he even has a chance to take his hand off the key, he's startled to see Batman standing there. Batman asks if there's any other missing women, and Bullock asks, "Would the Bat God of Night be so kind as to hop down and give the pinched nerve in my neck a break? That'll be great." Anyway, some info just came in that there's a total of 4 women missing. Eyewitness reports are seeing homeless people getting grabbed off the streets as well. Bullock then goes to turn off the bat signal, but as he continues talking to Batman, he notices Batman has already left. He scoffs, telling himself that Gordon must have the patience of a saint to put up with that crap from Batman. But back over at Pine Barrens, Freeze looks over the captured women, stating, "We are short one. What happened?" One of the men from Team 3 says that they were in the neighborhood and things got out of hand, so they had to leave before. But Freeze stops him, telling him, "You forgot the part about how a dog mauled your partner's leg. The truth now." The man then tells Freeze that he did hit the woman with the trank, but she fell and hit her head. There was blood everywhere. He made the decision to leave her as the mission was to get her unharmed. Freeze grabs the man's face, shouting, "Never do my thinking for me." The man's head slowly begins to freeze over, and as Freeze pushes him back, the man's head shatters. He looks back at the remaining team member and he yells for everyone to bring the woman in without any further damage. The men return to her home, but when they open the door to sneak in, Batman lunges at him, telling them, "You should come in. I've been expecting you." Later, as the thug begins to regain consciousness, his eyes begin to focus, and he sees Batman staring straight at him. He grabs the man and he asks him, "Who sent you?" And the thug tells him, I don't know anything. We were just robbing a house. So Batman takes a fist of his hair and he forces him to look down into the alleyway where one of his teammates lays bloody. Make me a believer of that, because all of your other pals are splattered across the neighborhood, and they sure didn't. The thug shouts, you beat him to death! His nose is almost gone. Batman holds onto the man as he fires his grappling hook onto the building, telling him, not exactly. The fall is what actually killed him. Now who's behind this? The thug struggles trying to lift himself up, yelling, Freeze! It was Mr. Freeze! So Batman then reports that the man in the alley said that he got what he needed. And Alfred tells him, good. As Alfred gets up, Batman jumps down telling him, that was another Oscar-winning performance, but I did see you breathing. Alfred wipes the fake blood off of his face, telling him, right, no breathing next time that I'm pretending to be a dead body that you threw out a window. Over with Mr. Freeze, he radios to Team 3 asking for a status report, but after several attempts, no one answers. He asks, has the mission been compromised? And as the sound of a roaring fire can be heard, Batman burns his way into the lair, telling him, yes, it has. Freeze looks over, telling him, those women were handpicked for this experiment. They've been drinking water laced with a special DNA strand of Nora's for several months now. Now, if you'll excuse me, there's more research to be done. But as Freeze presses the button, dozens of frozen, shambling bodies reach out and they begin to pull Batman back down. Batman is forced to watch as Freeze escapes with Nora. And shortly after, the rumbling of a large snowmobile driving through the snow can be heard. Batman tells himself, great, Freeze had another vehicle. Now for these creatures, for them to be all attacking at the same time, it means that they were implanted with a transponder to animate them. Batman sees a small control panel off in the distance and he fires an electrical wire to short it out. Seconds later, the bodies all fall, leaving Batman to jump onto the single-person snowmobile that was left behind. He races to catch up with Freeze and he jumps onto the back of Freeze's vehicle. The sensors go off that the weight has been added to the craft, and Freeze shouts, damn him! He presses a button that releases an electrical net, shooting Batman off and into the icy waters below. Freeze tells himself, Batman has been shown to be a bit on the resilient side. He presses a second button, shooting off a canister into the lake, and when it explodes, it encases Batman in a brick of ice, causing him to sink into the waters. As Freeze is making his escape, a fiery bat symbol can be seen from the lake, and Batman bursts out of the ice. He pulls off his mask to catch his breath, and then he radios to Alfred to bring a large transport to his location. Make sure to have room in the Batcave, and put a mask on. We're going to have a few guests. Later, as Alfred is wearing his flash mask, he says that he does believe that they'll be needing a bigger cave. Batman takes off the tarps covering the cryo-frozen women, asking, was that the best mask you could find? And Alfred asks, is all of this really necessary? As Batman goes on telling him, we need to make sure to keep our identity safe for when these women are revived. Alfred tells him, if we're able to revive them without harm. And Batman quickly stops that. No, when we revive them and apprehend Freeze. Meanwhile, deep down in the Pine Barrens, Freeze activates Nora's cryopod, telling her, the time is over. It has all come down to this equation. Action and reaction. Freeze holds Nora's mouth open as he pours in the serum given to him by Lex, and then he injects her with his own solution. He turns, watching the computer, when he hears beep, beep, beep. He begins to state that it's working, but that's when Nora shoots up screaming, Victor, don't! Several minutes pass and Nora cries, telling him that she begged him not to do it. She pleaded with him not to do it. She wanted to fight the cancer on her own terms. She didn't want to be frozen. And Freeze slowly lowers his cryo helmet, telling her that he had no choice. I wasn't going to lose you. Her tears begin to freeze, and Freeze tells her, you wanted to do battle against something that couldn't be defeated. You were braver than me. I was not prepared to lose the love of my life. She tries to pull the helmet back off, but Freeze grabs her hand, telling her, you need to relax. Take slow and deep breaths. Your body and your brain are in danger until the temperature hits absolute zero. That's why you're wearing the suit. It's keeping your body cold. She shouts that she doesn't care. She needs to breathe. She needs to feel the air on her skin, even if it means breaking the stupid helmet. But Freeze begs her not to. But as she removes the helmet, the suit finalizes. She closes her eyes and takes a deep breath. She begins to feel her hands, stating, they're so cold. And Freeze assures her, this is normal. You have no need to worry. I will make sure that you can acclimate to this. She touches her face, stating that she's just so cold. It's like she's dead, cold and dead. Freeze kisses her and tells her, I've been so lonely without you, to touch you, to kiss you. She pushes him back, telling him, it's all happening too fast. I was just frozen in time. The life I had just passed by. Everything that I've been through. And he asks, everything that you've been through? I watched as the love of my life danced happily and then faded away. I wasn't going to let that happen. I had to stop it. I froze you so that I could save your life. I wasn't going to let a single person get in my way. Later over at Wayne Tech Cryonics, Batman says, we've been at this non-stop. There's gotta be a way to reverse what Freeze's serum did to these women. And Lucius Fox tells him, we're going to need a hell of a lot more coffee for this until the blood is refined to their specs. The blood inside these women is synthetic, man-made. It is beyond any cellular regeneration that I've ever encountered before. And Batman asks, so what about the Lazarus pits? And Lucius tells him, yeah, way beyond what I'm capable of. Just then, ice begins to form outside of the lab, and there's a loud scoom as Freeze and Nora walk in. Batman tells Lucius to take cover, but Freeze tells them, it's so nice to see you, and he freezes the ground, holding them in place. Nora looks at Batman, Bruce, and Freeze tells her, we do not have any time for dilly-dallying. Batman looks at Nora, telling her, you're alive. And Freeze says, yes, always the gentleman, Bruce Wayne. Not such a gentleman when you ordered me to cease and desist from continuing my cryogenic experiments. Bruce yells out, because you are putting hundreds of lives at risk, Freeze. Nora leans in, telling Bruce that she has no ill will towards him. In fact, she remembers his kindness and the generous donations to the ballet company that she danced for. Bruce tells her, I'm happy to see you alive. It is a miracle. But at what cost was Victor able to do it? And Freeze laughs. What cost to save a life? Anyway, we came here for a special compound that was hidden away that would help me vitalize Nora's resurrection and allow her the mobility that I am now blessed with. Freeze breaks open one of the freezers and pulls out a small canister. And Nora asks, is it time to go? Freeze takes her by the hand, telling her, I would do anything for love. Pray you won't ever have to, Mr. Wayne. Later in Gotham, Nora dances on the stage. Her skin the same blue as Freeze's, and Freeze himself watches with delight. As Nora and the music stop, Freeze stands up, shouting, Bravo! Bravo! Wonderful! Beautiful! She takes a bow, and she says that she's thankful for this special night. And then Freeze hands her a suitcase, telling her, this is for you. There is nowhere that you cannot go now. And after you change, we will greet the world as the new Mr. and Mrs. Freeze. A few moments later, as they walk out onto the frozen theater, Nora looks up and sees the giant green doom symbol in the sky, asking, what is that? Freeze tells her that he would assume it has something to do with the man who gave him what he needed to bring her back. But it doesn't concern them. It is just Lex Luthor making his opening statement. Later, as Freeze is teaching Nora on the ways of how to be a proper supervillain, Batman and Lucius get hard at work trying to reverse engineer Freeze's cold serum that was injected to the 4 women who he took captive. While Lucius is staring at the screen, his eyes widening, stating, it's possible, I've cracked it! Batman tells him, good, we have to test out the antidote immediately. And Lucius suggests that they use one of the animals at the lab. Batman tells him, no, I need to know if this antidote works on humans, which is why we're going to use one of Freeze's rifles. Everyone falls silent as Batman hands the rifle to Alfred. And as Alfred takes aim, he says, perhaps we should reconsider. But before he could finish, Batman tells him, fire the weapon! And after taking a deep breath, Alfred pulls the trigger. Batman shouts in pain as his arm begins to freeze over. He steadies himself and he tells him, all right, hit me with the freeze antidote. Lucius takes the needle, injecting it into Batman's neck, and moments later, the computer begins to read off Batman's temperatures. Lucius sits Batman down, telling him, your core temperatures are going to rapidly increase. If this doesn't work, it'll cook your brain, Batman. The computer begins to read out that Batman's internal temperature is 104 degrees. But as it slowly begins to come back down, Batman can feel the ice around his hand beginning to melt. Lucius says that it looks like the antidote was a success. Now all they need to, but Batman stops him. Not yet. My arm is completely numb. We can't take the chance of leaving the victims in that state. We're close, but we need to do a little bit more refining. Back in the Barrens, Freeze tells Nora that everything is prepped and they're ready for their next adventure. Next stop will be Alaska, With all the money that they've got from their heist, they can live worry-free while finding a cure for them. Warm skin, warm blood, a normal baseline for the both of them, a normal life. Nora pauses for a moment, asking, new life? Just how many lives do I have to give up? Maybe I was better off dead. At least then it would have been on my terms. But Freeze reaches for Nora, telling her, please don't. And Nora pushes them back, shouting, I don't want to escape anything except your plan for me. I won't live as your puppet. Since I've come back, you've been dictating my every move. You still see me as a little sick ballerina to control. Freeze steps back. This resentment, it's so deep. I just wanted to help you put aside these obsessions, embrace a new life where Batman isn't on our tail. Put away those demons, atone for all of my sins, and finally stop being a villain. Nora asks, is that right? And what about me? What if I like having power over people, Victor? What if I'm able to make my own choices, Victor? I don't need you anymore. We could split our money once we get to the other location, but after that, we're finished. As Nora gets into the vehicle, ice is shot next to her head, and Freeze says, I've exposed you to all of this way too fast. I threw you into the deep and expected miracles. You can't leave me! You won't! Nora continues to get into the vehicle while Freeze fires another shot and shouts, I won't let you! Nora turns back and walks towards Freeze so that the gun pushes against her chest and tells him, I don't need your permission, Victor. It's time to stop dancing for you and start dancing for myself. She grips the gun tighter, but after a few seconds of silence, she walks away, stating that she didn't think so. With her back turned, Freeze shouts, I was doing this for you! I will follow you to the ends of the earth, Nora! She spins back, firing her freeze gun, telling him, and I believe you, and this is where we have to go different paths. Later, back at Wayne Manor, Lucius continues his work on perfecting the antidote when the alarms come in. Batman looks at the monitor, stating, it looks like I won't have time to recover just yet. Don't wait up. He heads out for the bat signal, but he sees it covered in ice and Mr. Freeze standing there. Freeze tells him that it was a long walk from the Barrens. I did manage to convince a truck driver that his life was more important than not giving me his vehicle. Batman holds a batarang ready and he asks, what do you want? Freeze hesitates for a second and then he says, I have done horrible things, and after our last battle at the lake, I was finally able to resurrect Nora. I used something that Lex Luthor gave me. I thought I had her back, but then Nora shunned me, and is now wielding power that I gave her with reckless abandon. Batman tells him, that's a touching story, but my only concern would be to see the both of you behind bars. Freeze asks, at the cost of the women and people from the theater, you've been keeping them on life support, and from the look of that dead arm, you've been trying to reverse the effects. Help me and I will fix your arm, just help me find Nora. Batman flicks a small dart into Freeze's neck, stating, if this device isn't disarmed with a special code, it will send 75,000 volts into your brain. Freeze grits his teeth in frustration and shouts, take off your damn glove! As Batman does, Freeze sticks him with a small syringe, and within seconds, Batman can move his arm again. Freeze pulls the dart out of his neck, telling him, that is how committed I am, and these files will have all the information to completely revive those women. Minutes later, all four women step out of their cryo chambers unharmed. As Batman listens for confirmation that all is well from Alfred, Freeze says, I held up my end of the bargain. Now we must find Nora. It is time for us to suit up and bring her in. Later at Gotham Mount Hope Cemetery, Freeze reads his name on the mausoleum and Batman tells him that he was right. Nora did come visit her parents' grave. Freeze tells him yes, as well as establishing a final resting place for me. If not in body, then in spirit. Nora wanted me to see this. I am indeed dead to her. Freeze runs his hand over the ice, saying he still can't believe that Nora turned so hard, so cold. Her mind is not right. After analyzing what Lex gave me, I hacked into LexCorp, and I saw that the serum was originally used for something called the B0 experiment. Luthor was attempting to clone Kryptonian DNA, but the project was abandoned when the first test subject proved less than stable. He thought that he could stabilize the serum once the hard part of reanimating Nora was accomplished. But try as I might, it seems that the love of my life is not immune to the darkness. As the two walk to the Batmobile, Batman asks, you do realize that once this is over, you have to turn yourself in. Freeze tells him that as long as he can be in the cell next to Nora. Now, there is one more place that Nora might be. Later at the Dagish Room exhibit and Gotham Museum of Art, Nora looks at the little dancer wax model, stating that there is such detail. She's even dressed in a real bodice tutu and slippers. As she admires the model, a gun is fired, hitting her on the side of the neck and into the sculpture. She looks back, asking, "Who dares?" And she notices one of the security guards that has been frozen with his finger pulled on the trigger. Nora runs over, pushing the security guard over, shouting, "You wounded me, and you almost destroyed a thing of beauty." As the guard falls over, his body shatters into 100 pieces, and Nora asks the second guard, "Do you have any bravado to display?" Nora then freezes the model and begins to push it onto the ice sled when suddenly she's hit from behind by an icy blast. Batman and Mr. Freeze jump in with Freeze yelling, "The serum that I used on you was flawed. It is altering your brain chemistry and personality. You must stop this." Nora shouts that he is a liar, always trying to say something to bring her back. As Freeze tackles into her, he tells her, "If you really want to leave me, I won't stop you, but we need to help you, please." Nora blasts Freeze up onto the ceiling, stating that he's trying to fill the deep hole inside. He needed her frozen to give his life meaning. The three continue to take shots at each other, with Nora freezing all that she can while Batman thaws things out just as quickly. After freezing over the entire building, Batman then asks, "Why would you throw away a second chance at life?" And she laughs, shouting, "That's right, a second chance! And I'm gonna use it however I damn well please." Batman readies his heat rifle, and once the motor kicks in, he sets it to full blast and begins to melt away Nora's giant ice wall. Once he sees her, he charges in, firing away at Nora's blast, and once he gets close, he releases a thin, heated wire that wraps around Nora. Freeze asks, "What are you doing? Don't hurt her, Batman!" And Batman tells him, "It's a geostatic thermal line. It's not burning her, but it's raising her core temperature until she passes out." Freeze lets out an electrical charge, stunning Batman, telling him, "I am sorry, but incarceration isn't in the answers. Nora can only get the real help she needs from me." Nora hugs her husband, telling him, "After everything I've done, you still?" And Freeze smiles, telling her, "I will work non-stop to rid you of the B0 toxin." Nora leans in, whispering, "I know that you'll never stop helping me. But like I said before, I will always be a prisoner of your love." She slams a needle into the side of Freeze's head, and as his veins begin to constrict, he asks, "What did you do?" She laughs, telling him that she would suggest getting to a cool, dry place, preferably at a temperature of absolute zero. He'll always have a special place in her heart. Batman groans as he comes to, and Nora jumps out the window yelling, "It's time to go!" And as she lands, she stands up, letting the snow fall on her tongue, and she walks off into the night. Back inside, Freeze begins to cough, stating, "I'm burning up, don't leave!" Later, inside of the cryonic sub-level B of Arkham Asylum, Freeze stands, staring with a blank face. Batman tells him, "It's a vicious cycle, isn't it? Here you are, standing in the same situation as Nora, frozen, time and life speeding past your stasis chamber. A steep price to pay, because she had one important thing that you don't. Someone to love her." And thus, we come to the conclusion of the Mrs. Freeze saga. Now, in my opinion, this was really epic and a great way to flip the switch on the Mr. Freeze situation. He's always trying to save Nora, finally does it. She ends up snapping, and she ends up putting him in stasis. So the roles are reversed. We have Mrs. Freeze out there not trying to save Mr. Freeze. If you're wondering what the B0 toxin is, it's the thing that created the original New 52 Bizarro, the one that became a superhero and then sacrificed himself at Forever Evil. So it's actually a thing within history. It's pretty cool. The fact that they brought it back, I'm a huge fan of that. If you enjoyed this story and you want to see more stories read dramatically to you, please consider hitting us up right here by subscribing to the channel and like this video so that it hits that YouTube algorithm, makes us super happy. And if you want to get early access to a lot of our videos, please consider going over to our Patreon, patreon.com/Comicstorian, where you can get early access, unedited podcasts, and a bunch of other work. Either way, thank you so much for your support. I'll see you guys next time right here.